friends. I'm doing like a combined video today of the movies I watched in March and the books I read in March because I didn't do much of either, so I'm just gonna combine the video. I'm sick right now. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. Please ignore that. I haven't made videos in a while because I have not been feeling good for a while. So thank you guys so much for your patience with me. I only watched 3 movies in March, which is really embarrassing for me. I watched 2 full shows though, so maybe you can— 3 full shows. Maybe you can forgive me. First of all, I watched The Holdovers. I know it's not Christmas time. I don't care. I finally got around to watching it and I am so obsessed. The vibes of the whole movie, I guess, were just so good. I feel like that's not something I normally say, like, oh, the vibes were so good. But they were. It was very, like, older feeling, which makes sense. It was based in, like, the 70s. But it was, like, you know, Dead Poets Society, like that kind of vibe, and it was so good. I feel like the actors picked were so perfect. Like, I get I've only seen it with them, but I could not imagine anybody else playing those parts. And I feel like the character dynamics were just so well crafted. Like, they were just such well-developed characters, I guess. And you see that a lot. You see a lot of well-developed characters, but this was like a whole other thing. And I will be rewatching this every single Christmas. The second movie I watched was with a couple of my friends. We watched Good Will Hunting. Hot take, I did not like it at all. And that's crazy coming from me because I will hype up so many movies, but this one I couldn't do it. First of all, it felt like a million years long. And I just looked it up. It's only 2 hours and 6 minutes. That's not like insane, but it felt insane. It was so clearly written by a man, and that's not something I have a problem with most of the time. Like, men can write good movies, whatever, cool. I don't normally find a problem with it, but this was just so— it was so blatantly obvious to like a painful level. Practically the only woman in this movie was written for Will. I'm currently editing. Let me explain that real quick. Obviously, she was written for him. It's a movie. These are fictional characters. They're written for each other, kind of. But that's like not what I meant. That's obvious. That's how stories work. But it was like she only existed for him. Like, her whole purpose in the story was to support him and for him to use, kind of. I'm trying to think of how to explain this. It was like she was written to put up with all this stuff and to forgive him for everything he did. And I understand people change. I know that he changed as a character. But to go back to that same girl is kind of absurd. My friend explained it in a Letterboxd review so much better than I did. So there's that. That kind of explains it a little bit better than I did. Like, he literally almost punched her, and at the end of the movie still like went after her, and that's how the movie ended, like with him romantically pursuing her. No, that is not how that should have went at all. Oh my gosh. He was finally making improvements in his life, and he's this genius and he has so much potential, and he's like, I'm gonna go find this girl that I liked. What? I went to review it on Letterboxd later and realized how highly rated it is. Thousands of people are like, this is one of the best movies ever. There's no way this many people feel so strongly about this movie being good. And everybody has their own opinions. That, you know, if you like that movie, this is no hate towards you. I couldn't do it and I never want to watch it again, you know? There was one scene though, the "it's not your fault" scene, that redeemed it a little bit for me. That is the only thing keeping me from being like, I despise this movie. That scene was really good. I loved it. The last movie I watched was Anatomy of a Fall, and this one, oh my gosh, I loved it so much. The cast, again, was absolutely incredible. All their performances were amazing, including the dog, and I'm like not even kidding when I say that. Genuinely, that dog can act. It was just so believable, and I know that's the whole point of acting, is to make it believable, but like, wow. I love true crime, personally. I don't love it. I don't love that it happens, but I'm really interested in like watching people talk about the cases. Like, I'm in criminal justice too right now. Like, it's just something that really intrigues me. So I loved this. This honestly felt like a weird, almost documentary. And the mystery of all of it was so well done. Like, it was just so good. And I loved the ending too. Spoilers a little bit, I guess, almost. Basically, like, a summary of the whole movie is this one woman's husband falls out of a window and dies. And the only real witness, I guess, is their son, who's blind. So he really has to go off of like what he remembers happening and what he heard, but he can't actively be like, this is for sure what happened. The only other person who was home at the time was this woman whose husband died. So she, of course, is like the main suspect. And at the very end, she's let go. She's found not guilty, but we never know what actually happened. We know like the options of things that could have happened. Like he could have jumped out himself. He could have fallen. Like there are many options of what could have happened, but there's no definite answer. And I honestly loved that. Now for the 3 shows I watched Abbott Elementary, all 3 seasons. I guess season 3 is still ongoing, but up to the most current episode. And I am obsessed with it. We were in California earlier this month, and we actually went to like the Warner Brothers studio, and we saw the back lots, like where it was being filmed. So we got home and we were like, we have to watch this now. And we binged the whole thing in like just a few weeks. I am a huge fan of mockumentaries, as you guys know, I'm sure. They're all I talk about. But especially in like sitcoms and like comedy shows, I think they're just like the best things ever. All the characters are so fun and so believable, which again, I know that's the point of acting. And again, I think the actors picked out for those characters were just so perfect, so on point. Especially Gregory, Janine, and Jacob. I think those 3 are like perfect. And Gregory and Janine are making me very angry right now. Spoilers kind of again. Because they have like the whole will it happen, won't it happen thing going on. And recently in the show, they both admitted to liking each other, like 3 seasons in finally. But they were both like, ooh, now's not a good time. And then they waited a couple months, and then Janine comes back and she's like, Gregory, I still like you. And he's like, oh, I don't really. Oh! And I think the reason it makes me so mad is because it's so real. It's so relatable and it hurts. And like I said, this show is still ongoing, so they're still putting out episodes every week. Except actually, they're only putting out 2 this month, so whatever. The second show I watched was The Bear. I've been meaning to watch this for so long. I watched all of season 1 in like 2 days, and then I watched all of season 2 on April 1st and 2nd, so I'm not gonna talk about that bit yet, but that proves like how amazing and how bingeable it is. Is that a word? Bingeable? I was able to binge watch it very easily. First of all, why does Jeremy Allen White take so many roles like this? He's always in like a dysfunctional environment. Whatever reason he does that for, he's very good at playing parts like that. I also like how the characters are just very human. Like I feel like sometimes shows like that will have at least one character who is just so hateable, and there's something there like humanizing them and being like, oh, this is why you are the way that you are. But there were like specific episodes in this show dedicated to like certain characters so we can see like their past or what their life is like right now and why they act the way that they do, and I love that they do that because some shows don't. My favorite characters though are Neil and Sydney. They have my whole heart. I love them so much. They're just both so hilarious and so sweet. Oh, also, I can't think of her name. Carmi's sister, Natalie. I'd look it up. It's okay. Natalie. I love her. I love her and Neil's dynamic. It's so fun. This show is so fast-paced and it's so entertaining, and I love that. I can't stand when shows are slow. I think I just have a short attention span, so I need shows to be like very fast-paced. I'm losing sunlight, by the way, so sorry that my face is like, the lighting's getting weird. Also, the fact that this show on like pretty much everywhere is listed as a comedy is crazy. There are like funny moments, like I did laugh while watching it, but it's definitely not a comedy. Like it's a very good dramatic piece, and I feel like everybody is just acting their heart out, like putting their heart and soul into these roles and into like the drama and the emotion behind it, and they're like, ooh, comedy. No! And then the third show, I'm not gonna talk about it a lot. I rewatched Percy Jackson and the Olympians for like the 4th time now. I'm obsessed. Whatever. Speaking of Percy Jackson, I actually don't have the book with me right now because my sister's reading it. Just pretend the book is in my hand. I read The Lightning Thief again. I read it multiple times in middle school, but then after 8th grade, like, never read it again. So I watched the Percy Jackson show, and then I went back and reread the first book, and it's just as good as I remember. It definitely is clearly written for middle schoolers, which is like kind of a surreal experience to like read it in middle school and be like, this is the coolest thing I've ever read, and then look back and be like, this is written for 12-year-olds. It's still good. A good story is always a good story no matter who it's written for. Which leads me to the next book I read. I'm technically reading right now. I'm halfway through The Sea of Monsters, which is the 2nd book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I love it. It's so good. Again, just as good as I remember. It's not my favorite out of the 5. I guess there's more than 5 now. There's like 7. When I was back in my day, there was only 5. It's definitely not my favorite, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Like, it's still 5 stars. It's still up there. I think you guys are actively witnessing me realizing I have a bit of a problem, because the 3rd and final book that I read was the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief graphic novel. It's an addiction. It really is. I started and now I can't stop. But like, I loved comics, I loved graphic novels growing up. Even now, they're still just so much more fun to read than like a normal book. So even though I have the story memorized, I went back and I reread it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I promise the video will be longer next month. I'm getting back on my like movie watching grind. I promise there'll be more next month. I hope you liked this video. I had a lot of fun making it and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.